guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you are on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to take pre-loved secondhand thrift store finds and share the process and my vision with you all of what I do to these items. My first makeover is just going to be repainting this little stool though. I think it's been painted multiple times. You can feel the thickness of the paint, and it was a homemade piece out of old boxes. It's super shiny, but it is just a nice decor size. You can use some planners, you can rise up your decor, just anything your little heart can think of. These little size risers are nice to have around. Need to see if I can at least get a scuff sand going on, meaning I can take that glossy of the original paint, and once I started sanding it, you could see some white and you could see some yellow. So at least 3 times this has been painted. So I guess a fourth is just one more more paint that this little stool is going to get. So I'm just got 220 grit. I'm not taking it all the way down to the wood. I just need to get most of that glossy off so my paint has something to grab onto. So for its new paint color, I'm going to do Tickled Pink Milk Paint by Sweet Pickens. I love doing smaller pieces before like I do a large furniture piece or a large bench or something like that. It's nice to kind of test the colors out on smaller pieces to see how much you love it. I recently did a little tin and I absolutely love like a dusty rose color is what it reminds me of. So Sweet Pickens Milk Paint is a powder. You mix it equal parts powder, equal parts water. You stew it for 2 minutes and then you sit it off to the side and let it thicken up 2 to 10 minutes. When my paint is thickening up, this is a good opportunity to take some Dawn dish soap, some hot water, and a rag and wipe this off. Get any residue that might prevent my paint from sticking, along with getting any of the sanding dust off too. I think it is super cool that this was made out of old boxes. I only wish that the wording was on the outside. I probably would spend a lot more time trying to sand it and get that detail to pop. But they're filled in, they're in the inside, you really don't see them, and I'm not taking it apart and re-putting it back together. So yes, milk paint. Oh my goodness, y'all. So if you have not used milk paint is an old-timey paint, meaning you're not going to get this pristine paint job. It can crackle, it can craze, it can chip off. It's unpredictable. It's just a fun, when you're trying to add age to a piece, this is my go-to paint. So now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to get my most surface area covered with my second coat. And you really see that the second coat really has something to grab onto. And it does give good coverage. It just all depends on the item, how you prep it, what the item's going, how the item's going to take. As soon as you think you have this milk paint figured out, it's like, nope, you don't. You saw the only thing I did to this piece was sand it and clean it, and it covered really well, actually better than I wanted it to do. I was really hoping for some chippiness and some crackling, and I wanted to see that underneath color, even though it was painted 3 other colors underneath. I kind of wanted that to show through, and nope, it didn't want to do that. Unpredictable, folks. So now I'm just taking my mouse sander with some 220 sandpaper. I'm just kind of distressing the edges, giving it a little bit more age because my paint job took better than I wanted it to. But looky there, as soon as I go to hand sand the inside of it, look at all that chippiness that happens. Of course, it's kind of like the writing on the box. I don't get to see that either. Sometimes it'll just be what it's going to be. So now I'm just going to take the air compressor and make sure that I got all the sanding dust taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and do some natural clear wax on this first because I don't really want to change that color. I think the color, the Tickle Pink, is such a pretty pink color. And then to add a little bit more age to it, I'm going to go in and add some aging wax. Maybe, maybe not. It might bring out some of the wording in the inside. Isn't this little owl set just so super cute? Love the umbrella. Oh my goodness. But it's just a resin piece. It's a hollow piece. It's a resin piece. It's newer, probably Hobby Lobby. I don't know, I'm guessing. But I got it at Goodwill. So, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and gingerly try to pull off that price tag. Hopefully not to leave any behind. There's really not a lot of prep you get to do to resin other than wash it off. Dawn dish soap, hot water, trying to get any residue off that might prevent my paint from sticking. Lots of little corners, lots of little details in this piece, so I'll try my best. Even though the only metal on this piece is the umbrella, I'm going to be using Prime Start, which is Dixie Belle's Patina. It's primer that you're supposed to use a lot of times on metals. And I really like it as a backing color. I like it as that pop of third color, that rusty red color. So I'm actually going to go ahead and paint it on the entire piece. Well, I'm going to dab it on. So I have an old waxing brush that I no longer use. And I used to do like a little small Dollar Tree brush. And I'm like, you know what? I need to upgrade to a bigger brush because this takes a long time to do sometimes, especially when you're dabbing. Dabbing technique is because rust is bumpy, it's not flat, so I don't just want to brush it on, and sometimes when you brush it on, you got to do multiple coats, but dabbing seems to get enough paint on there, so I'm doing the underneath of the umbrella first. Sometimes it's easier just to go in to get those hard areas, and you can already tell how it doesn't really want to go onto the resin per se, but you just put a little bit more paint on and a little bit more forceful. I'm not concerning for full coverage. I don't need full coverage. We're layering paint. This is supposed to look like an item that has been out in the weather and that has aged. With the assistance of the heat gun, my Prime Start is now dry, and now I'm going to start adding Dixie Belle's Patina in the iron paint. Now this is that rusty reddish brown color that I'm looking for. So I'm going to do the same thing. I just wiped my brush off. I'm going to go ahead and use the same brush I used for the Prime Start. Don't need to get a ton of paint on there. I want you to be able to see some of that red of that Prime Start. So I'm doing a dry brush technique where I'm dabbing off the paint on that side plate and the same dabbing technique to get the paint on. And it'll look like, oh, that's not enough paint, but just wait. It goes a long way, so you don't necessarily need to have a ton of paint on there. While my iron paint is still wet, you can still see that it's wet. I'm taking the green patina spray, giving it a good shake, making sure all the yummies are mixed together. I have it on the mist mode, and now I'm going to go ahead and mist the entire thing. Of course, trying to remember to go underneath the umbrella, not to forget those areas. Just a nice mist on the whole thing. Now, I did the bottom of this, and then all that liquid will be running down anyway, so I won't have to necessarily pick up the figure to get the bottom. It'll kind of just be sitting in it. While all that is still wet, I have the blue patina spray, and I have that on squirt mode. But I'm not going to do a full squirt. I'm just going to do a little pump and then just let those little blue streams just run down, kind of like where the rain would hit an object from the top and then just work its way down, just really giving it that nice turquoise blue aged look. Oh, look at that yumminess, y'all. So now we're going to seal this in with some Weather Defense Metal Clear Coat. I know in one of my last videos I just recently did another candelabra by Home Interiors. I'm assuming this one's probably in Home Interiors also. But I absolutely loved how that one turned out. No, I'm not going to rusty crusty the whole thing of this one. But there again, it's super shiny. So I need to scuff sand it. Not an easy task by any means because there's lots of details on this piece. But trust me, it is well worth the time to take the time to scuff all that detailed area. And as I'm sanding away, I'm trying to tighten up, and I'm like, hey, why tighten up when you can take apart? Like, well, that was awesome. So even the inside of the little votive, the candle holders here, there's a screw. So I can remove these. This will be so much easier to achieve the vision of paint that I want to do on this piece. That is for sure. It doesn't matter. The sanding is what the sanding is, but my paint job's just got a whole lot easier. And they just happened to be really long screws, so I just wasn't giving my drill enough time to get all the screw out. But now on this candelabra, there's only 3 metal protectors left, so I'm going to go ahead and pop them out just because it's not like uniform. It was 1 in the middle on the top and then 2 on each side. So I'm just, to make it even, since I'm going to be painting this, I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. For my paint color for the wood pieces, I'm going in with Sweet Pickens Ocean Color, which is, it's a dark blue, not like a navy dark blue, but it definitely has a nice primitive vibe going. Almost a little boho with the blue, pop of blue color. So that was my wood color that I'm going to let sit up while I'm working on the metal piece. I did scuff sand this a little bit too to see if that would help or not. So I got it all washed off. Now I'm making sure that it is dry. There's no water left behind because yes, I am going to rusty crusty it up. So we're going to start off with some of the Dixie Belle's Patina Start first. Yes, it's the same process, just on a smaller scale. So now I'm going in with the iron paint now that the prime start is dry. Oh, this is why I was super excited when I realized that I was going to be able to take this apart and paint it individually. If not, I would have done this process before I painted the wood part. That way I could wipe it off any of the wood. And I can paint this in segments, which will make it easier also. So my plan with the ocean color, adding the blue patina to the rusty crusty, I'm hoping that the two of them kind of coordinate and match. Is my hope. Say a prayer for me. I'm sure from afar that seems like one coat was enough to coverage, but I can see where spots are thinner. It's a little bit streaky, which it does kind of streak anyway, but I wanted to make sure that everything's completely covered, and I kind of would like a little bit of chippiness if it happens, so hopefully that second coat will coax a little bit, maybe. Just a little piece of metal. Oh, wow. Did this ever do some amazing things? You just never know. So I'm just sealing it in with some Weather Defense clear coat. Now, I do not want to sand these, even with some steel wool. I'm just going to leave them as is. But I am going to add some age. I need to seal that milk paint in. So I'm going to use some of the Fusion's Antiquing Wax, with the hope that the dark wax will stick in some of that detailed areas. It's going to richen up this paint. It's just, oh my gosh, adding waxes to milk paint is just, it takes that milk paint to a whole nother level. You think you know what the color is, and then you change that wax color, and it's a whole new color. Oh, just look at that. But yes, so when I wipe it off, once I get it waxed on, then you wipe off the excess, and probably a little bit of chippiness will happen. I'm hoping anyway. Now, I can't believe how well painted bowls have been selling for me. I've got wood antique ones. They kind of just sit. I don't know. But I have another one that has been in my stash. It's a little bit worse for wear. It's dirty. And I mean, it's not in terrible condition, I don't necessarily think. But yeah, let's go ahead and get it cleaned up with some Dawn dish soap and some hot water and see what we got underneath. And then the mystery black stuff around the rim. Sometimes you just question, it didn't just wipe off, but moistening it made it loose enough that I could take some sandpaper and sand it off. We're just going with mystery dirt. That sounds good. Really isn't a lot of top coat or anything on this piece, so I think if I just take my 220 sandpaper, I just scuff sand get that dark area sanded off, whatever that is. And yeah, just give it a nice scuff sand on both sides. Now I'm really just down to raw wood. So if I go in and paint this now, the paint would just soak into the raw wood. So to fill that wood in, even out their porosity, I'm just sealing it in with a couple coats of shellac. For my paint color for this bowl, I'm going to be using Curry. This is such a yummy color. I'm having good luck as a reseller, reselling it in my retail booth. So Curry it is. I just think it's fun. It's a fun yellow color. Is anybody watching? Do you use a Lazy Susan? Have you thrifted a Lazy Susan to help you paint items? I tell you, sometimes I forget that I have it. That's the funny part, but most of the time I'm in love with it, being able to move my item around in a 360 and getting it all painted at once without having to lift it up all the time to move it is so helpful. So now I'm on to the second coat, and you can see how that second coat just grabs onto that first coat. And probably the way that I prepped this piece with the shellac and the sanding of it, I shouldn't get any like chipping off. I'm hoping from some crackling. I think I'll get some crackling, but it shouldn't chip. Oh, I don't know if you can see the inside and see all that crackling and crazing going on. So I'm going to be adding some of the Fusion's aging wax, and that's really going to get into that crackling crazing and just make it pop. And that bright yellow color that you might think the curry is bright and yellow is going to be toned down with this aging wax. Though I really don't need the Lazy Susan for this because I don't want this on a piece of wood that's going to be rubbing the paint off, because this is fresh paint. So a lot of times I'll just put a towel down while I'm waxing it to make sure that my paint's staying where it needs to stay, because it's not like I wait till the next day to do all this. I do all this in one day if I can. You know how that saying goes now, wax on, wax off. So I really like to make sure that I'm getting it down in there with the brush if I can, or pushing it, even if I'm using a rag. I want it to get into that crackling and crazing and really make it pop, make this really look like an old time primitive piece. Look at that yumminess. How cute is this little cabinet cubby? Though I'm a chicken fan. I like animals, but I think it overpowers this little cubby. This little cubby is just MDF board, nothing terribly expensive. So I'm going to be taking the chicken off because I want you to be able to see those goodies behind that fun chicken wire. Just because I wanted to take the chicken off, that didn't mean the chicken wanted to come off, and I didn't want to break my chicken wire. That was for sure. I didn't want to, it's built into the door, so I didn't want to have to replace it. So a little bit of prayers while I'm pulling those staples out. They're in there good and tight. The last one was the doozy one, but with a little bit of a picking tool to get it lifted up, I was able to get it removed. Now, not necessarily does this have a heavy top coat on it. It's got some uneven textures. I just want to scuff sand it just enough to give my paint something to stick onto. So I've got some 220 grit on my mouse sander, and like I said previously, this is just MDF board. With this being MDF board, I don't want my paint just to soak in, so we're going to seal this in with a couple coats of shellac. That'll even out that porosity. It'll fill in if I went all the way down to the raw MDF, and it'll just give me a nice even paint coat when I paint it. For this little cubby cabinet, we are going to have fun. We are going to brighten it up with some bright in the pickle green. Yes, some chippy milk paint, though I probably won't get a lot of chippiness on MDF board that's been sealed in with shellac, but I love this color. It's a nice bright green. One of those projects you just can't paint it all at once, so you just have to get the most surface area first and then get all those little other sides like the back and then opening up the door and get that painted to match. So it's going to take me at least 2 coats to get this covered. And I kind of thought that I was going to paint the chicken wire green, but as I was working on it, I did not like it. So, because the original piece had the chicken wire was the same color as the whole cabinet itself, so I decided I'm going to take the time to tape it off. We're going to try this anyway, and I'm going to try to rusty crusty the chicken wire. You know, my milk paint's not sealed in yet, so whatever leaks on it, it'll be what it'll be, but I really think I need to rusty crusty this chicken wire. Well, we'll see how this works. So I'm going to start off with some of the Prime Start to prime it, get that nice red background. I can't really do a dabbing motion on this, or I'm just going to keep pushing down the tape. So I'll just do tiny little brush strokes and get this covered. Like I said, if this is an afterthought, sometimes that happens when you're working on a project. You change your mind on what you're going to do and you think of something that you think is going to look better. And now right over top of the Prime Start, we're going to put some of the Patina paint in the iron right on top. Now the chicken wire is so thin, I kind of think I'm getting most of the area even alongside the back a little bit, but I will take the tape off and I will do the back side also, like touch it up after I get some of the spray and it's started to do what it does and make that lovely patina. I'm really trying not to make a hot mess, so I'm just doing little squirts, kind of just hitting the chicken wire. I'm sure someone's going to spray onto the paint, but I still have paint left and I can paint over that. It's not any big deal. Then I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for a little bit before pulling off the back and touching up anything on the back. So the front will still be wet while I'm working on the back. Before taking the tape off, I'm going to just take a paper towel in between the chicken wire and try to soak up any of the liquid. There didn't seem to be a lot on the front of it until I opened I opened this up. Wait for it. You'll see it once I take the tape off. Well, and that's why there didn't seem to be a lot of water, wet substance on the front of the tape. It had a leak. Of course it did. I mean, it's just tape, for goodness sake, on wire. So, like I said, this wasn't sealed in. I wasn't too worried. I'm just going to sop it up. I'm going to finish my patina on the back of the chicken wire first, and then I'll just repaint it. So since this cabinet, there really isn't anything very pretty underneath it, I'm just doing some of the aging wax right on top of in the pickle, and that transformation of a colored wax on this milk paint is just amazing. It took it from that bright in the pickle in your face color to a nice, just a nice subtle green color. So yes, I have to do the whole thing. So it's wax on and then wipe off the excess. But look at how it finishes and protects this piece. And yes, the rusty crusty chicken wire looks much better. I was imagining how cute this little cubby would be with some little terracotta pots, some seed packets. And then I also in my stash have some of these little bitty tools, gardening tools, though they are really new. They're almost in the pickle color now, but I'm going to scratch them up a little bit with some sandpaper, and I'm going to go ahead and patina these also because I just love a good rusty crusty item for some reason. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Which item I made over today was your favorite, and have I inspired you to look at pre-loved secondhand thrift store finds in a new way? So again, thanks for watching. And if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you want to become part of our YouTube family, you love thrifting, you love making items over not only as a reseller, just to add them into your home decor, please smash that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!